Howdy, I hope you've had a great day. Silver Trade here again with another video. XRT is over 900% short. We're going to look at the graph and talk about why this pullback on the Bitcoin news is nothing new. And Ryan Cohen, a few hours ago, got spotted at a Nets game. Knicks game. Weird thing about Ryan Cohen being at this game is, well, one, he's in his usual business hoodie, his deal-making hoodie, and he was in the exact same VIP seats that Steve Cohen normally sits in. Steve Cohen is the owner of the Mets and Point72. Point72, who famously bailed out Melvin Capital back in 2021. There are no coincidences. People who were watching the game said that he wasn't really paying attention to the game at all, constantly talking to the girl and talking on the phone. He arrived late and left early, leading people to believe that he's trying to signal something to the apes, because he didn't seem that involved or emotional in the game. Ryan Cohen went to the Trump rally the day after he posted YOLO, which was held at Madison Square Garden. He said YOLO yesterday in the Bitcoin interview, and tonight he is at the same Madison Square Garden. For anybody who's curious, Madison Square Garden is just like a giant arena, sports arena, but they use it for all different things. And this is what it looked like back in the day. Super pretty. XRT is at 904% short right now. Unbelievable. It's funny how a company can announce that they purchased 21 Bitcoin last week and their stock skyrockets 800 to 900%. But when GameStop announces that they bought 4,710 Bitcoin, their stock drops 10%.
Retail market order, 95%. Do not go to the lit exchanges. Do not go to NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange. They go to wholesaler.
So if we go to the SEC Edgar website, go all the way down to the 10K filing on March 25th, go here, Control F, Bitcoin. This was one of the first filings that GameStop talked about buying Bitcoin. Just a few days later, on March 27th, GameStop fell 22% in a single day. Recently this week, I want to say May 27th, GameStop announced that they bought the 4,710 Bitcoin. And then hedgies slammed the price down another 11%. I wonder why hedge funds pushed down the price so hard around Bitcoin news. We talked about it yesterday, but the off-exchange short volume was over 500,000 that day. Please remember, none of this is financial advice. We are not financial advisors, and this video was made for entertainment purposes only. I know how this sounds, but with GameStop's price getting hammered on such good news, I really see this as them trying to shake out the paper hands. There's been a lot of Bitcoin maxis on Twitter saying that they're done with GameStop and they're getting out because GameStop's price has performed so poorly since the announcement of the Bitcoin. People think $500 million worth of Bitcoin isn't enough. But a lot of wealthy investors, though, today bought into GameStop, one of the highest orders being for over $15 million, for about 499,000 shares. Looks like smart money's buying in, while retail is selling. One of my favorite signs. GameStop's going to report their Q1 earnings for 2025 on June 10th, so in 10 days. And people online, myself included, are predicting this to be GameStop's best Q1 earnings that we've seen in years. Ryan Cohen on that interview said that he has made the company profitable. This is huge and destroys the entire short thesis. A few brokerages came out and said that GameStop purchased their Bitcoin at $75,000 per coin. On the wallet, we saw that they might have been purchasing at about $82,000 or $85,000 per coin, but there's no way to be sure until GameStop officially tells us. Regional Formula is predicting a 39-cent per share profit, or maybe an 8-cent per share profit. We'll have to see, and it depends upon when they bought Bitcoin. If that wallet that we talked about yesterday really is GameStop's wallet for buying Bitcoin, they bought around $82,000 per Bitcoin. We know that GameStop held the amount below as cash at the beginning of Q1, $4,756,000,000. Assuming this was invested once again into T-bills, this would have yielded about $60 million. That 0.0% bond that they offered generated them about $1.5 billion. Some portion of this has been used to buy the 4,710 Bitcoin, leaving the remainder as more cash. In my opinion, this is genius because the amount of Bitcoin that they bought means that every one share of GameStop, in a way, is connected to $1 worth of Bitcoin. So GameStop is holding over $5 billion worth of cash, which really just makes a floor price for their stock. And now they're also holding $500 million worth of Bitcoin, which also improves the floor price. This chart shows the price movement of Bitcoin from when GameStop completed that offering to Saturday, May 3rd, the last day of 2025 Q1. Let us say that GameStop bought the 4,710 Bitcoin on the very day of the note's completion announcement. The price of Bitcoin was about $85,000 per coin, so costing them around $400 million.
If you don't go to business school, then I'll boil it down to one sentence. Here's business school. Keep your options open, right? That's what you learn in business school. And how do you create value? You have to generate option value.
Some people have suggested that the purchase was on the 22nd of April, the date that Ryan Cohen unfollowed Bitcoin. Bitcoin was actually worth about the same then as the 2nd of April, so a little difference in price. Let us assume that the remaining $1.08 billion from the notes offering was also invested in T-bills, and that this added to the income generated by the original cash, which was invested into the T-bills. Added to a 15% gain on $400 million worth of Bitcoin would produce a total investment income in 2025 of an incredible $125 million. In English, they have so much cash that they might have made $125 million just from that cash in Q1. In this scenario, net profit would be over $103 million. So 22 cents earnings per share for Q1. So it's either 8 cents profit per share or it's 22 cents profit per share. Either way, GameStop is profitable. And he literally said that during the interview, so we kind of know what's going to happen on earnings. And really quickly before we get into this one, thank you so much if you made it this far in the video, and thank you guys a million for crushing the like button on my last video. I haven't seen that many likes on a video in a very, very long time. I'm not trying to sit here and whine and beg for likes and stuff, but ever since I went to the hospital for my stomach problems, the channel has just not gotten the same amount of views or likes, especially after I started talking about some other countries' foreign policies and a few conspiracy theories. I kind of shot myself in the foot with that. But thank you guys so much for bringing my channel some growth again that we haven't seen in a very long time. I really appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. If we get to 200 likes, I'll do a face reveal before next week. And I'll start putting myself in the videos as well. New FTD data came out, and there's an interesting backstory here as FTD data is missing for GameStop, Roaring Kitty's Pet Side Quest, XRT, and GMEU on May 8th. Pretty weird, right? Especially for GMEU to carry some of the failures to deliver load and is itself now failing to deliver the failures to deliver numbers. But what happened on May 8th? GMEU borrow fee climbed above 11%, which suggests there was a high demand for GME shares that day, which was C plus 35 settlement deadline after Ryan Cohen and Larry Chang bought 505,000 GameStop shares on April 3rd. Pretty weird how they're hiding data 35 days after the insiders bought 500,000 shares. We can also see signs of stress in the Federal Reserve lender of last resort, where $100 million was borrowed on May 6th, coinciding with the first of the consecutive days GME FTD data is missing, down to $6 million on May 7th and $1 million on May 8th. Looks like someone needed to borrow money in those final few C plus 35 days and had nowhere else to go but the lender of last resort. During the exact same week, the Fed was supporting, quote-unquote, the financial system with $8.8 billion in 30-year treasuries purchased on May 8th with a total of $43.6 billion in those 4 days. This is when we were talking about how they were offering 30-year notes and then buying it themselves. The whole system is rigged. All of this is going on while the Fed is coming out saying that central banks are ready with liquidity. We talked about that recently. And then yesterday they started adding new strike prices to GameStop to spread out the liquidity. Something's coming. June 12th is C plus 35 days after May 8th, and crap could really hit the fan around that date. Coincidentally, GameStop reports earnings on June 10th, and Roaring Kitty's Pet Side Quest reports earnings on June 11th. A lender of last resort, or LOR, is an institution, usually a country's central bank, that offers loans to banks or other eligible institutions that are experiencing financial difficulty or are considered high risk or near collapse. Just gonna highlight and pause for a second. In the United States, the Federal Reserve acts as the lender of last resort to institutions that do not have any other means of borrowing and whose failure to obtain credit would dramatically affect the economy. Here's a chart of data on bank loans made by the Fed. Recently, it has absolutely skyrocketed, over 4 times higher than it has ever been before. The Federal Reserve must be backstopping GameStop shorts as a lender of last resort. On the weekly for GameStop, we're still above the 5-day moving average, which is huge in my book and says that we are still bullish. And on the daily, if you don't know what the Fibonacci retracement is, please familiarize yourself. It is a very powerful tool. As long as GameStop holds above 28.64, we are still looking great. But we'll really be back in bull territory once we get back above 30.32. And earnings should be a blowout from the amount of Pokemon enthusiasts that have just gone into the hobby and from the Nintendo Switch 2. But thank you guys so much for just checking out my videos. I hope you're having an amazing day. Keep your chin up and God bless you.